When has there been a time in your life where you felt hopeless? Um, Personal experiences, there's been, various emotional things that have happened, whether it's physical, financial, whatever, right? For example, the week of my wedding, a big storm went through and a small tree basically fell and destroyed our deck, right? Um, which made our roof leak and whatever, right? Um, I can think of it with like training where, last spring I hurt my wrist and, it sounds dumb, but I felt hopeless in that time because, and then I hurt my back as I was trying to navigate not doing my first competition and so on and so forth, right? But most importantly and most notably in my life, and I've talked about it before in various videos, but so a year ago this week, um, my wife and I were going through losing our second pregnancy. And this one was a lot, they're both traumatic, of course, equally. But this one included a lot more physical trauma where, um, there was emergency surgery involved and a long, painful recovery for my wife physically. And, from that experience, our chances of starting a family decreased probably by at least 50%, if not 75%. And ever since then, I've had a real hard time understanding and listening for hope, and mainly around that. But that has stemmed to other aspects of my life. I think this is what happened, what kind of drug me down for this first competition in the fall here, because I knew this was coming up. Um, you know, everyone has things that happen. I know a guy on Instagram who I'd say I'm, acquaintances with. He's in the hospital right now and he does weightlifting, and it's something completely out of his control, which sucks, right? Being a nurse taking care of patients, I've seen people at their absolute lowest who can't find hope because of the situation, right? I have another acquaintance through YouTube here that, he posts weightlifting videos as well, but his father just passed away. That's kind of a defining moment in someone's life where you probably feel pretty hopeless. And everyone has their own struggles and everything, right? But I don't know. I'm interested to hear what people do when they struggle with this kind of thing. There's a really great poem by Emily Dickinson called Hope is the Thing with Feathers, that I've tried to latch on to, and remember. It talks about a bird that perches on your soul that always sings the song of hope no matter what is happening. It's just sometimes you can't hear it, or maybe you choose not to hear it. And I really would suggest you check that poem out. It's only a couple lines or whatever. I don't know, poem, like terminology. But, um, this time last year, after my wife had recovered and stuff, I, had that poem in the back of my head. I transcribed it onto, on a cardstock and found a little gift with two birds perched, that kind of represented a couple things. And it's just really tough. I don't know. It's toughest part probably is, seeing some people that I know that went through similar struggles that I consoled because I've been through it, that then they go on to have a successful pregnancy and start a family, and then I never hear from them again. Or certain friends or people I know make little comments that I don't expect people to understand what I'm feeling or what this means if they've never gone through it. That's not fair. But, completely apathetic or just very rude comments that, whether they're intentional or not, like really just ruins my week, So, I can say that, I'd like to find hope in the fact that I can get better at weightlifting, hope in the fact that I can continue to do well in my career, you know, provide a good quality education for nursing students, set them up professionally, be a good husband, be a good partner. But sometimes it's just hard. So I don't really know what else to say. I probably just needed to say that. So if you've supported me and said things before, I appreciate it. So thanks.